Preparing live stream. Okay. And now
Perfect.
I also want to be recording this. Recording in progress. Hello, everyone. I thank you very much for joining me today. I am Lorraine Appleyard. I am a psychic and spiritual medium, and I'm really very excited to be able to have with me today the lovely Deborah Romero, who I see is on mute, so you're going to have to unmute yourself, dear.
Yeah, no, I would just.
But Debbie is an evidential medium. She's a healer. She is a paranormal investigator, which is where my love for spirit really first started, was in the paranormal side. What I think is really cool is that she is an empowerment teacher. And Debbie really is endeavoring, she's holding the intention of holding space to raise the vibration collectively. And I mean, that's really what the world needs at this time, isn't it? Is to have the vibration raised. So thank you very much for joining me today, Deborah. I really appreciate it. I've got my freshly brewed cup of tea here to chat with you.
I love that. Morning cheers. I have my tea also. So let's just rock it, girl.
Now, you do have a great vibe. I'm going to say that right now, and it really is very fitting that you're all about raising the vibration. And I believe that you've got your show Transcending with Debbie. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Debbie, and your whole journey. How did mediumship evolve for you? How did that take place?
Wow, great question. First off, Lorraine, thank you for having me here on your show and for your kind words. I think like many of us, we go through this profound change in life where we're seeking solace, right? We enter prayer, meditation, and we go into that place of self-love and self-care. And so that's where my mediumship started and continues, because self-care is something that we must do all the time, and we tend to forget to take ourselves to that place sometimes when we're really holding space collectively and being a service to family, to friends, to the community. And so really, for me, I would say in my 20s, was going through some things, and I allowed my spirit to take time and, went into meditation, and then I went into deeper healing work, went into Reiki, got my certifications, became a Reiki master teacher. And when you're holding space for spirit to come close in a way that's needed, you really are that channel, and you embody that spirit world in the way that it's needed. And that's where the loved ones start to come in, right? So mediumship started to really unfold for me, even more so in my 20s. I would say at a very young age, I've learned to work with spirit world, and I've learned to work with prayer, and I've learned to work with my angels in a way that my spirit was soothed. And so every day is a new day with spirit world for me, and I'm just grateful to have a little bit part of that light in there with them.
Well, I mean, you said a lot there, and I'm just going to sort of hone into a few things.
Sure.
I really love the way that you talk about holding space. And not a lot of people, like if you're not already working with spirit and perhaps having the idea of holding space, if this is completely new and foreign to you, that perhaps that concept of holding space that might not understand, but once you really connect with that idea of holding space, it's a beautiful thing. Did it start with Reiki? It sounds like you were on your own healing journey, you're on your own journey of discovery, and then things just sort of opened up for you. Is that it? How would you explain that?
I would kind of say that I was someone who was already spiritually attuned.
Right.
I was raised with church. I found myself going into prayer quite often. Many of us have different life experiences where we do seek peace, and even when there is that little madness in our lives, that comfort that we can find within ourselves and God's self, Great Spirit, right? I found myself doing that quite a bit at a very young age. And so for me, there's many different chapters that I would say that evolve and transcends and is what you get today. So I would say since I was young, I just really embraced this part of myself, even when I didn't fully understand the word medium, even when I didn't understand, oh, wow, we can hold space. And like a mother comes and soothes their child and brings in that deeper healing, like really understanding the frequency and vibration that comes and flows through a person. I think we shouldn't complicate it and just be who we really are. And that's bringing in the light.
Yeah, and you know what you're saying there that really connects with me is that the way that you talk about prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Because for myself, as a young person, I really connected with prayer. That was something that was really very innate in me. And it sounds like it was innate in you also. And it sounds like you always kind of had this love for spirit.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. I definitely embody that.
It's key, right? And so, because to me, for someone that maybe doesn't understand prayer, we do live in a world where there are a lot of people really disconnected from spirit, right? From prayer, and maybe working or looking for something more and how to be able to connect with that. And I know from personal, encounters with people that there are those that may feel that prayer isn't useful or worthwhile. And I love how you talk about prayer, because I honestly feel that not a lot of people maybe talk about prayer and how I want to say how beautiful it is or how important it is, but it's hard to be able to really put the power of prayer into words, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I love that you say that, because I continue to hear throughout the week, there are so many words with no words. There's so much emotion and power that comes when we don't speak, because as mediums, we can feel into what the person feels, that mind to mind thought. And so even if we don't speak it, spirit hears it. And I think that's okay. So if you can't find yourself to pray, or you don't have it within yourself to get to that place, spirit knows. And they feel with what's in our heart and with what's in our mind. And so if you're not in that place where you can say, God, help me, or what's the next step, how you unfold that, spirit knows. It's just giving them that extra permission to come closer, as we both been able to embody that frequency and vibration. It comes with the willingness of saying, okay, come on in, welcome that.
You're absolutely right. And because, and I like the way that you've really illustrated that, and it reminds me of the saying, and I can't quite recall the whole saying, but basically it's that God hears your silent prayers, the prayers that are in your heart. And I believe that to be true.
Most definitely.
Right?
Yeah, well, how we work, they're not expressing. We could feel into what they're thinking, what they want to manifest, what their desires are. As mediums, we are able to go into such a delicate place in their aura, within their spirit, of what they're feeling. So yeah, you don't have to say it. It's felt. It's in that deep desire. Spirit feels it. We're all that. And we're spirit. So we're feeling that.
And so, and because of that reason, and this is I feel where people may also, if they're just starting out on this journey, they may not fully understand that we are spirit.
Yes,
right?
girl. Yes.
Spirit embodied, having this crazy human experience.
I love that.
And because of, by virtue of that we're spirit, we always have this innate connection with spirit, with the great spirit.
And I think that's important too, Lorraine, because you made a comment and you said sometimes we don't feel that we are connected, or we're not. Sometimes in people's lives, they don't feel that they're connected to that divine love, God, source, energy. And we are always connected to the light. Even in the darkest hours, we are light, we are spirit, we embody that frequency and vibration within. Yeah, always.
And that is powerful for someone that may be, wondering, is this true for me? That may be lost, that may be really experiencing those dark moments that we know that the soul experiences here in the earth plane, which usually comes from that feeling of being disconnected from something greater, right? And so you're really talking about, we always hold that vibration within us. We're just not aware of it. I feel that that's beautiful. And it tells me a lot about how you work too, as a medium, as it tells me the values and the ethics and how you view spirit, and essentially how you view being of service. And it, because it feels really very like this very sincere, loving desire. And so I feel that that's also very important, because some people, when they look at mediums, they might think, oh, hey, you know what, they're just looking to maybe get a reading, to build their classes. But how you're talking, and there's a really very sincere desire to bring light and to raise the vibration. And I feel, so let's talk about raising the vibration, because what do you feel is going on in the world at this time, and what is needed? And we see a lot of things, a lot of shifts that's happening. What are your feelings? What are your thoughts on all of this?
I did get to channel a message in trance in Jennifer Rose's platform. And as spirit came closer, they understood the grief in the morning that we feel and all the hurt that we experience. But our planet was definitely healing. And so for my guides and going into that state, they were able to bring comfort. And they said if we needed to journey deeper into the subconscious to allow our spirit and soul to feel more, then give yourself that permission to dive into that deeper place of love. And so if we look at the collective and we go into that place, we just remember that we are love. And coming back to that higher self will definitely give us that permission to embody that frequency as we go through grief. And they grieve with us. And so reminding us that we're not alone, and that we are definitely supported as we dive into that subconscious mind of how we feel about things. It really is a beautiful place to feel the upliftment and support. And if we needed to, they would always be there if we just simply ask.
And I feel that is like, I love how you're describing that. And we talk about these different emotions that we experience as humans, some of these lower emotions that we're seeking to evolve. I do believe that we're ascending right now. I mean, to me, you can't look at the different changes of mindsets, the growth that we're experiencing. And I do believe that we are ascending absolutely to our true spiritual nature. And that comes with a lot of like peeling away of those lower aspects of ourselves, right? The false images that we may hold or we may have. And you have this really very loving way of being able to state that. And when you talk about empowering people, how do you go about doing that? How do you work?
I think it's important to honor our emotions. It's important to honor the grief, and it's important to honor the stories. Be okay with where you are in the moment. Be true to thyself. and bringing ourselves back to love, which is the higher self, and allowing the higher self to come closer, and then really start to give permission for spirit to blend and to embody that frequency of vibration of self-love and self-care for thyself and others. And when I do work with my students and they really come to that place and they go, Debbie, what do we do next? And we make it so complicated.
Mm.
And it doesn't need to be complicated, because we just need to be.
I mean, I think that's the story of life, right? We make it complicated as humans.
Yeah. So it's just be yourself. When people come, share that light, share that smile. You're embodying spirit. So when you speak the words, they feel the frequency and vibration within you and all around you. So continue to be that joy and that love of who you really are here to exist on this plane, right? To experience this. Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that you're saying that. And I'm really, I know that people are connecting with your words, because your words themselves are embodying love and spirit. But when we talk about, becoming spirit, becoming our higher self, that can be a difficult process, right? Because we all come from, let's face it, we all have a lot of healing to do, right?
Yeah.
And we may experience things like we have different woundings that we're looking to heal from.
Most definitely. I think when we go into the higher self, it's really giving ourselves permission to be supportive. It's the we, not me. It's love. It's God as self. It's divine self. And when you're in a place with other like-minded souls, there's no accident that everyone is in that class because they're supposed to be in that class. And so what they take from it is they're getting the energy, they're getting the exchange, and they're getting the frequency. How they put it into motion may take time, but they've been given that seed to empower themselves to take the steps for them in the direction they choose to move with it. So it's always giving it back to them, the baton to them, to be themselves.
And that's very true, talking about the timing aspect of it, right? And we hear this in sort of sayings talking about divine timing and spirit timing, and everything has a season. And so what you're really talking about is that you can see that happening within your classes, within your teaching, knowing that everything will unfold as it's meant to. And that takes a lot of trust too, right? So
yeah. And we just, you really do want to trust. And trust, faith, hope, right? We want that trust that it's happening, the belief that it's happening, and we hope that it happens, right? We want that to happen, the desire, the manifestation, that all that hard work we just put in. Some of us come in here and we say, oh, I've been doing this for a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you really have molded, but did you take time to reflect, to see the progress? Maybe you're in it and you don't realize you're in it. Reflect and pause and let yourself feel that joy, that empowerment of the little congratulations and the milestones that you have accomplished. We're so quick to see something we want more, but really be okay with where you exactly are in the moment in gratitude and say, okay, this is where I'm at. I'm good with this. Thank you, Spirit.
I love that. And so I'm going to say two things to that. One, as humans, I mean, we don't tend to pause enough to take stock of the things that we have already accomplished, right?
Yes.
That's human mind, that we tend to sort of just put things on a timeline and stop to do that sort of self-reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Shows, hey, you know what?
Uh-oh. I think we lost you, Lorraine.
Growing, take pride in your accomplishments. but also be hard on ourselves.
We can be our worst critics, definitely. I lost you for a second there, but what I did hear a piece of was that we can be hard on ourselves. And I am probably the hardest person on myself. We are. We always push ourselves, you know? Uh-oh.
I think we froze.
Am I frozen
No.
for you?
No, you're back now. So let's just
Okay.
where we left off. So we're talking about how as mediums, we can be very hard on ourselves.
Yeah, I think even as humans, you know, as many of us, we step into this healing journey and we're vulnerable. And we're, as you talk about the layers and you talk about the things that we go through, and it's building the confidence. And as we're building the confidence and we're going back and we're looking at our progress, we can be very critical on ourselves. But this is really, I'll give you an example. I did a video and I put a video together. And this video, everyone came in and spoke their words and their truth. And everyone was like, I hope that was okay. And this is the key. Every message that was delivered from each person was supposed to be said that way because I believe it will resonate differently for everyone. We all are receiving information and processing it where we are in the moment of our journey now. We're all at different places, as you spoke of different wounds. We all receive and we hear and we feel into it like, oh, that really resonated with me. That makes sense. And that is why we have to stay unique. We are different. And when we find ourselves in that critical mind thinking of ourselves, honor yourself and say, Spirit chose me, or I am me because I was born to be here and be the way I am. And that's it. Honor you of who you truly are. It's important.
And I know that you say that with complete sincerity, right? And because that can be a difficult thing for someone to actually maybe make the shift mentally that I am here for a reason. I am here for a purpose. I am unique. I'm built this way for some divine reason, right? That I am unique. And I like also what you're talking about, how in class, for instance, people might have their own little takeaways. But you know what I've found? That it's a wonderful way. You talked about the subconscious, and everything gets stored in the subconscious. And so when it's ready, those little tidbits that maybe weren't conscious at the time because the timing wasn't right, those little things that have gone into the subconscious, when the timing's right, that will suddenly resurface, I found.
It definitely does. And so our body remembers.
Yeah.
And so when we remember some of the things, as you spoke of, the layers or stories or the different chapters of who we are, that congratulate yourself for the work that you have done. Congratulate yourself for where you are in the moment of like, wow, I'm not there no more. And so if that happens to anyone that's out there, you know, don't hold on to the story. Give yourself permission to fill into it and congratulate and bless it on its way. Bless it on its way. And if it's in any way where it's uncomfortable, right? Because it can make us uncomfortable. And I feel like that's an area that you opened up a bit there. This is where you get that support group. You get that team of people who are experts in that area that can hold space for you and that can be there to listen to you without judgment. I think it's really important that we be heard. And if we are being heard, to find someone that is in the professional level that will be compassionate enough to hold space for you to unfold your truth.
And so you're really speaking about each individual soul journey there, like the way that you're sounding. And I agree fully about what you're saying. And so whatever it is, wherever anyone is on their soul's journey, because even if you're not trying to actively seek out mediumship, we are all still on this spiritual personal journey, right? Because we're spirits.
Forever. Yes. Yes.
And so even though someone may not be perhaps seeking out mediumship but everyone is still seeking out how to be a better self, a better them, heal from the past, how to be able to move into their best self, right? And to fulfill their own personal destiny, which is really spirit guided, right?
Correct.
And so when you're talking about, I mean, you're talking a lot about the individual story, and I feel that that's a really beautiful thing, because I think that many of us really sort of struggle with that story aspect.
I think for some, there are some, it was very odd. I crossed a path where someone didn't have a story that was difficult, and there'll be some that don't have difficult stories, and I thought that was, wow, okay, that's cool, good, lucky, good for you. And this is where we don't compare the stories. I remember a teacher of mine, a friend of mine, he would speak of this dark light shadow, and he's like, girl, stay in the middle. What was coming to me earlier was like that snake, that poison, that it's like if you embrace that little by little, you become immune to it. That medicine, it comes closer and closer, and it's like you can sit in that, can you become immune to that, and you know how to work with it because you can sit in it and you'll be okay. So if you find yourself here and here, that's okay. Just come to the middle.
And I agree with that. And the Buddhist philosophy really talk about the middle path, and I feel that that's probably what you're referring to. But and it really speaks about learning how to be balanced, perhaps, and learning how. And so that brings me to mind, body, and spirit, and how to keep all of them in balance, right? And so it sounds like you feel that that's very important.
And it takes time. I think this is why, again, we don't judge, and when we honor your journey, that is why the journey of thyself is for you. We are all just parts connecting and as they say, guiding each other home. We're all guiding each other home. I was talking to a friend the other day, and he said that, and I thought, we really do hold space to guide each other home. But he was like, but this is my home. This is where I want to be. This is what's up. But when you're in the home of God, spirit, great spirits, what your belief is, the higher self, it's so loving. That frequency, that hug, that comfort that you're held in, that upliftment, that's a place of that bliss that we get to.
And you're really talking about unconditional love.
Most definitely.
And so when you're talking about holding space for others and guiding them on their journey home, understanding that this human experience is really just for a small portion in time, right?
Yeah.
That everyone's having a different experience, but it's all serving a greater purpose.
I like that. It's so true. And this is why we all collectively, our frequency and vibration to this planet, to this world. This is why you matter. This is why your role and where you are, we all come together and we unite so that we can continue that upliftment for each other. Now we're going into the collective, right? The collective work for all of us. And remember, it's no longer individual. If you're up there and you're doing the work for spirit, it's for everyone. It's for all.
So what I'm hearing you say is that when one person heals, when one person finds their voice, and one person becomes closer to their own true spiritual nature, that this helps everyone.
We all win.
Grow, right?
Most definitely.
Really, when you think about it, you think about your path, my path, whoever's path it may be, all the healing that they may do, sometimes some really dirty work, right?
Yes,
I've done a lot
definitely.
of dirty, healing,
Yeah,
some
yeah,
real shadow work. But
yeah.
to think that in turn raises the vibration, I mean, that's a beautiful thing.
Well, I think it's also for the children, and your children, their children, the family, the people you're around. It becomes a healthier way of living. It becomes a way of seeing. A perception changes. There's a shift in there. Even for those that don't believe or that don't resonate, they still get the frequency and the vibration when they're around you.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that true? Even if they're completely skeptical and they think that it's all a bunch of bunk, they're still
Mm-hmm.
benefiting from that.
They, whoever you're around, they benefit because you embody that light, spirit, God, essence. And when you speak your truth and you're in the flow in your true higher self, everyone wins.
And I'm going to add to that further because I know, so listen, when you talk like that, I relate this to my own personal family experiences, all kinds of different dynamics in my extended family. And maybe some are not really on this active healing spiritual path, which is fine, right?
Yeah, it's all good.
All good. But I
Mhm.
know that I know that by holding space for them, even though it may look like nothing's changing here on the physical, right? On the spiritual level, I know that that they are able to receive that.
Most definitely. And I think that is where we trust in spirit. You used that word earlier. You trust in the unseen.
Yeah.
And then the desire to have it here now. So say in God's speed time.
Yeah, and I really just really like the way that you talk about the collective and how we're all able to really benefit from that healing and this ongoing spiritual growth. We see that everywhere, right? We see people really looking to find their voice and accepting their own individuality.
Mm.
It's a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. I think oftentimes we are taught to, as children, some would be like, okay, keep quiet, behave. And so early on, we're programmed not to speak up until we're taught to follow the rules. And so when things happen, stop tattletelling, or, so we were shut down at very young. So it's like, how do we embrace our truth, right? So it's like, really, that's what you're speaking to me when I hear you say that. Speak your truth. And I feel as we share our stories, not everyone is worthy of hearing your story. That's why it's got to have that right person that's going to hold that space for you. And so when you find that right person, if you can't share it with them, get it on paper, journal it out, get it out of your body, and start to feel into that emotion and allow that transformation to happen, and really hold into that throat chakra and get it open. So it takes time, but you get, for those that are listening, you'll get there. Little by little, speak your truth. What is your heart desire?
And I love the way that this is really what you embody is people finding the truth, that transcending and that empowerment. I feel that, and that's a very important thing because there are, I mean, on this human journey, we do feel very much alone or misunderstood or separated at various points in time.
Yeah, I feel that when I have my page, Transcend with Debbie, every guest is different. As you said, we speak on paranormal, we go into the spiritualists, and we also have the evidential mediums, the healing. So many beautiful, professional, talented souls step in and they share their gift in the way that they flow. And it's honoring the authentic self, honoring their story, their perception, and how they receive and how they get the information is for them. And so this is where we shouldn't complicate it. We honor them and honoring how they receive it. even if at times, hey, that didn't resonate, that's okay. It's not, that's their love for spirit. That's what they're seeing and that's what they're sharing. And you take the good of what resonates and you grow with that. But this is honoring their truth. Okay. You know, if we go into a paranormal investigation, you have a team of people that come in and one is doing, you know, the EVPs, you got the recordings going, you got the pendulum going, you have the equipment going, you have the psychic working, and everyone is coming together as a team. But we're all connecting to source and spirit.
All coming together for a purpose, right?
Exactly. And we all receive differently. It's the respect for each individual person and the respect for spirit and how the story is unfolded and told. We are here to tell the story for them, and how one receives it. When you put it together, you'll get the story. And that's the beauty within from Spirit World.
That is the beauty. That absolutely is the beauty. And that's a wonderful way of illustrating it. So tell me, you're talking about paranormal things.
Okay.
Tell me, one of the most interesting stories you've had with paranormal investigating.
I think the biggest, well, I have quite a bit. Let's see. So I think one of the biggest ones that really stayed with me when I didn't fully, like when it happened, it took me to a whole nother level of trance, right? So I go in and I get to do this investigation with a team, and I got to be behind the scenes with Ghost Adventures. And so when I got to go in and they call you in, everything's already like very fast. Mind you, I've been waiting like 3 hours in the cold, and I'm like, okay, and then I'm called in. And so I'm like, all right, girl, let's go, right? And the intensity of walking into that kind of environment, you're going in, everything is high elevated, and it's like, this is happening, let's go. And I'm like, okay, you know, I'm trying to just do my part, and I go in and I channel in the soul that they're asking, and I could literally feel the spirit drop. You know, for me, it felt very much like they call it an anomaly. I would get tongue twisted there, but it was spirit. And I could feel one spirit coming so close, and I could feel the other spirit coming like a little orb, and it just kind of dropped in. And in the camera, you were able to capture the whole shift of the perfect blend. And so for me, to see it on camera, we know we do this, we know we speak it, but to have the evidential scientific proof there in the room with you, that you've become that person for them as you hold space.
So
that was cool.
And as a medium, I understand entirely what you're speaking about. So let me just make sure that I'm able to sort of illustrate this for those that may not understand. So you're talking about
trance
connect, and they do that soul to soul communication. And here you are on an investigation, and they're filming it, and they're actually able to capture on camera this soul coming in to blend with you to do is that
it was into
stuff.
Transfiguration. So it into a transfiguration. And so to see it happen and for it to be on camera was so cool.
It would be, absolutely.
And the opportunity to work with the talented people that come. I mean, everyone works, and the energy and the vibration is just like whoosh. And at the end of it, I was like, oh my gosh, okay, that just happened. So it's like to also, again, did the story add up? Is it the same story? Everyone comes with a story. And so when the story all comes and validates, it just made me so happy, you know, to do a full walkthrough and to watch spirit flow. That was one of the biggest things, experiences, one of many different experiences that I got to go into. So it's been a privilege and an honor to witness that and to watch others work in that field. So yeah.
And that having that kind of evidence, I feel is very helpful for someone that might be skeptical.
Yeah. So one of the things that was really rad for those who are like skeptical, I was in this attic and I was working with the soul that came in to deliver a message. And as he was delivering his message, what happened was I just heard the name George, and I heard like, thank you. And it wasn't your fault. But they have the voice box in the other room, and they was exactly, thank you, George. And so the machine was picking up everything that I was hearing, but we were in opposite rooms. And I was like, that is so awesome. Like, and that's evidence. Here I can validate it, and then the machines are picking up. So this is where it's so cool to have that team to come in and share again Spirit's story.
Yeah, that is actually really great evidence, because I know that mediumship is something that people are more open to nowadays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I'll be honest, like when I first started out in this journey, because I feel that I've always been connected to spirit, I've always been able to receive something greater than myself. I knew it came from beyond me, but I wouldn't dare speak about it because like it just was not readily acceptable. 30 years ago, entering into the workforce and feeling spirit, seeing spirit, that it just really, people would think that you're just very ungrounded. I love the shift that has occurred over the last really 10-15 years, particularly with mediumship has now become a household name with some of these great mediums that have done shows. But you're talking about evidence through like the EVP and through camera work, and I think that is really very cool. That's good.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a great experience. Very, very honored to have that opportunity.
Now, I know that when people talk about paranormal activity, that sometimes people have some experiences that might even be frightening. Whoever felt that, or they might perceive it to be frightening from their own viewpoint. Have you experienced that at all in your paranormal investigating?
So this is going back to perception and how one sees one way and I see another. So we all have different perceptions, and this is where we honor their perception. I worked with a demonologist in the investigation. So we did the first investigation before without the team, and we did the walkthrough, and he could full on see spirit present. What I was able to feel into was the emotion of the soul. So this person was battling, unfortunately, a suicide. And so in the emotion, I could feel the back and forth of the movement, the decisions of having to go in, the feeling of what he was experiencing. He could physically see it. But for some, the perception is as if it was something heavy. That's heavy. It's a very heavy emotion you're feeling into. And what happens is he's so cool. He has a priest guide come in, and it like gives the healing and gives the love. And so it shifted very quickly, and we just moved it along, and we allowed spirit to do their thing and bring in the healing in the way that it needed. So every scenario is different. You will run across to some denser energies and denser situations, but every situation is different. For me, I feel that it's just a great tragedy. I'll give you an example. There was a Glen Tavern that's out here, and it's a hotel that's very horrific. A lot of horrific things happened, tragically to people, a lot of killings and things like that. But this is the beauty that I got out of it. The lady said to me, Debbie, thank you. I give so much gratitude to all the paranormal people that come here to hear my story, and I'm healed, and I'm just being heard. And she was just grateful to the mediums and to the teams that got to express her story. So there was a lot of gratitude from spirits, but I'm sure it maybe you not have felt that at some point.
So what I feel that you're saying, and this is my understanding, this is my own personal sort of understanding or philosophy around a lot of hauntings, is that sometimes they're just souls that have some unfinished business to do.
Mhm.
and that they're hanging around because there's this unfinished business. It sounds like when you gave them the opportunity to have a voice, to be heard, to tell some story, that allowed them to experience a shift, to have some love, and then sort of ascend or move on. Have I heard correctly?
I think what happens there for not just paranormal, not just hauntings, I think in evidential mediumship in general is one, even if we're not mediums and we're all feeling something paranormal, spirit is going to do whatever they need to do to get our attention, especially if we're in a place asking for help. If you're in a place where you're in prayer or a celebration, a party, a birthday, and they love to party with you, they're going to make themselves known. If you're missing it, the frequency and vibration can come in such a beautiful way that sometimes can be very startling to someone who doesn't know, who's not educated. Oh, that's my grandma, or that's my pops, or my dad, or my sister. So I find that when with the lights flicker, the light gets brighter, and there's things that we see within the mind's eye, I feel that's just spirit wanting to be with us. And if we can embrace that opportunity to say, hey, I was having a bad day. Thank you for being here. Or thank you for celebrating with me. This is what's up. This gives us an opportunity to really be in that oneness with spirit world and ourselves, as life is eternal. And we were reminded of that if we allow our spirit to be open enough to fill into that.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about getting those flickering lights and getting those signs of spirit, and it's really just those reminders that spirit is always present, right? Spirit is always around. And during certain times, they may want to make their presence be known even more.
That's for sure. And that's where we have to remember where are our thoughts at. What is our foundation like? What is happening to you in the moment of now? And that is really saying, oh, yeah, I did say a prayer. I did ask for them to be with me. And a lot of times, again, we go back to that silent prayer. Where are you grieving? Where are you mourning?
Yeah.
And that is them trying to get our attention. Now, let's say going back to the paranormal, is the people that you don't know. They all have a story. As I did an investigation at a graveyard and every story was being read, I could literally see, I was covered in this beautiful angelic silhouette. And as the souls were sharing their story, I could see the energy flying higher and ascending. That is not because they're stuck. It's because they were heard and the healing is being done. So when someone is heard, not only in spirit world, but in this world, this is going back to our truth and to that throat chakra that you speak of. There is power in that. There is healing in that. And as we use our words for the truth, as we speak into that darkness of what we go through, we embody that light.
I mean, you say that with a lot of love, with a lot of emotion, and I could tell that that's how you work, with that feeling of love, with that emotion. And when people learn, so we're going to just take this to the healing aspect of our own personal journeys. When people learn to sort of connect with their truth and to put a voice to that, it sounds like that's what you feel is really like an important part of a soul's healing journey.
Oh, if I go back to just looking at pieces of the work, that's what we do. We do speak for the souls that don't have a voice. And we do that even in the living. As mothers, we speak up for our children and for those who fight for those that see injustice and for those who continue to bring that righteous path to others. We do that now. And then those that cannot speak, may that frequency and love continue to touch them to embody that healing so that they can share what they need to share.
And so what I'm hearing also in the picture that I'm getting is that because we're all on a spiritual journey, and really we're all meant to help and guide one another, that even though someone, for instance, may be not working in the field of mediumship or doing spirit work per se, however, they're working and healing through whether it be a teacher or a social worker
Yeah.
or some other or a nurse, right?
Yeah.
And looking to be able to support one another and to be able to allow them to tell their story and to be able to allow them to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm really connecting with. And so we have the power to heal in many different ways.
Yes. And I think that's, you said it so perfectly. Again, this is going back to being who you are. Whatever profession you're in, you're part of this world that we live in, whether you're a medium or not. I feel like we are all sensitive spirits. We all have our senses. We are all flowing in our creativity flow. How you choose to embody that and how you choose to move forward with that. You are giving back by being you. Whether this is just a smile, it doesn't have to be, again, so complicated.
You're right about that, right? Because as humans, we like to complicate things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A simple smile, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to ask you because we're talking about healing, which I really love, and holding space for one another and honoring one another. Let me ask you, how do you feel one should approach it if they have, say, for instance, a family member that may be very, difficult, or another individual that's maybe not a family member, maybe it's a coworker, someone that they feel is just, not jiving with us in any way, shape, or form. How do you suggest holding space for someone like that?
I think the first thing is you let them be them.
Okay.
That's their journey. And whatever they're feeling is something personal to them. Don't insert yourself in their business. That's the first thing. How they maneuver through their stuff is for them. That's why it's a journey of thyself. And if it's triggering you, then you need to go back within yourself and say, okay, where can I strengthen myself so that I can withstand this vibration and frequency? Where in my aura do I need healing? Where does this mirror image exist within me? And what is this frequency running that is also within me? And honor yourself to bring that energy back up, to say, okay, I see this. I recognize it. I honor it. And it's important for those that are in here that if you are witnessing someone that you don't jive with, no judgment.
No judgment. Yeah. I mean, I think that that's really very key, because that in itself lowers our own vibration, right? If we want to maybe judge someone else, but just to honor that they're on their own spiritual journey, and maybe perhaps they're having some difficult lessons.
I think it's important that when we feel something that is interfering with our spirit, right? Interfering with our spirit. You are here to hold space for so many that have so many, or for those who are choosing to be healers. And then those, let's say, who are not in this field, but are irritated by the person.
Yeah.
We always have to look at ourselves and bring it back to yourself to understand, why is that disturbing you? It's not about the person, it's about you and why it's disturbing you. And so this is where the deeper work can come in. There's a lesson as you speak of. And this vibration that we speak of, we go back that we are spirit. We are all vibrating with love and light because you are spirit. That high vibration, that low vibration, it's just stories, but we are all vibing the same because we are embodying spirit of God and God's self. So this higher, lower, it's, to me, that disturbs me sometimes. And I understand that there's a story there. And perhaps you're just feeling the story. And if you're sensitive enough to feel into that story, it's their story, not yours. And that's where you have to separate that.
Yeah, I love that. That's absolutely beautiful. It really is. It's coming to understand and hold space for one another, that even though their own journey may not, we may want to view it as something different, but to understand that this is their journey and to not pass judgment on that, to honor them as spirit, right?
Yeah.
That's a really very, very profound and accurate way. I love it because it shows me that just how soul-centered you are, and it's beautiful. But having that kind of outlook and sharing that outlook for others to hear, that's going to provide a lot of healing. Just because it's going to be, it's disseminating that truth, it's disseminating that wisdom that allows for others to have that greater understanding, where we no longer have to own someone else's wrongdoings or shortcomings, healing ourselves, looking within, and holding space for others. That's right. Is that what it sounds like? That's what you're really wanting.
Most definitely. I think, you know, we're all trying to make a change, and I think at the same time, how about just honor where you're at? Be okay with where you are in the now. We always want this magical wand to say, poof, here is your miracle, girl. Here you go.
That's true.
But how we look at it and say, how about you're a miracle already?
Yeah.
Look at you. You are a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, that's very profound in itself, to think about that we as an individual are miracles already. How phenomenal was that?
Right? Pretty awesome.
It's pretty awesome. I love it. And, you know, thank you for bringing that to my awareness once more. That's a lovely, lovely message.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed talking with you, Debbie. Thank you for this opportunity. Tell me, if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you?
Thank you, One, for having me as a guest. It's an honor. My apologies for being a little late. The time zone there caught me. But thank you for those who are listening, who tuned in, or who go back and hit that replay button. I could be found on transcendwithdebbie.com. I'm on all platforms. As you're aware, I also have a new show on SPTV UK, Transcend with Debbie, on Fridays at 10 Pacific Standard Time and 6 p.m. UK time. So, Lorraine, it's an honor. From one soul to another, I appreciate you and your spirit.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure so very much to connect with you. I hope that we have the opportunity to connect again, Debbie. I really have enjoyed chatting with you, and your vibration is just really, truly one of love. And it's been a pleasure to sit in that for this last hour.
Thank you. Thank you kindly. I appreciate that.
Soon. Many blessings to you.
You too. Thank you.